So I think it looks like we are in. So hi everyone, welcome to today's session of UPSC Buffet by Gallant IAS. So we are continuing with the PYQ sessions, the Polity PYQs, and we'll be dealing with the concepts that are being discussed in the PYQs and things that you can look forward for in the coming years. So PYQs are actually a guideline and or a lighthouse for expecting the kind of questions that you are going to face. So that's one thing. We can actually decipher these PYQs from the last 5 years to begin with and then the later ones. And that gives us a really good idea on the kind of questions that we can expect, especially the areas. I'll show you very clearly how these things turned out. And first of all, the PYQ we are discussing right now is 2023. Keep that in mind that 2023 has got a very high level of deviation from the standard set, because that's one area, or that's one set of questions where they introduced new levels of options, like statement based questions on, and almost the entire questions were only one, only two, with minimal room for elimination. But UPSC in the later years, in 24, 25, they changed that pattern because they knew that this pattern doesn't necessarily reward the one who's having the right kind of knowledge and right kind of ability. So that's why they have reduced a proportion of only one, only two, and they have reverted back to the earlier style. So you should be taking some key insights from 2023, but at the same time, you should not be basing your preparation based on this 2023 paper. That's the one disclaimer I have to, one clear warning and caution I have to give you ahead of this session, because 2023 questions, the kind of questions that are being asked are not very conventional in nature, which UPSC changed in the rest of the years. But things can change. You can expect some 2023 and 2026 also. So we have to be prepared with that. But at the same time, your preparation should not entirely be based on the 2023 thing. It should be a mix of 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And that's how you should be preparing. Okay. So let's get started, and we'll be discussing quite a bit of concepts today, and I have prepared enough materials to make that easier for you. So right off the bat, we'll be dealing with the first question. I think there were on 10 or 11 questions were there, and one was cancelled. So those questions we won't be discussing. This is the first one. In essence, what does due process of law mean? There has been quite a bit of confusion, doubt, arguments, debate once this question was asked, and from veteran aspirants and everybody, including faculties and almost all the institute keys, didn't really have a uniform answer for this. So this was one debated question, and UPSC gave us the answer. So naturally, going by our usual style, we have to be analyzing it in the first. We try to solve it via logic. Then we use our knowledge, or the kind of knowledge you need to have to solve this question. So logic wise, due process of law. Okay, that means the process of law means that should be followed. Okay, the principle of natural justice. Okay, if you have heard about principle of natural justice, you know that it encompasses few principles, like one cannot be a judge of his or her own case. Then the other one being the right to fair trial. Things like that are part of principles of natural justice. If you have heard about that, okay, fine. Because this is something you come across in tribunals when you are reading tribunals in particular. Because tribunals follow a principle of natural justice rather than usual code of law. Then the procedure established by law. If you have read something about procedure established by law or due process of law, you know that due process of law is not this, but an improvement upon this. Due process of law is an improvement upon the procedure established by law. We'll get back to that later. Fair application of law. Okay, harmless statement, very general. Equality before law. Equality before law doesn't necessarily mean due process of law. Last day itself, I told you that there is equality before law and equal protection of law. Equality before law is a basic concept and a very rigid concept where everybody is treated equally. But on the other hand, equal protection of law is one where unequals are not treated equally. Okay, it's a positive concept. Whereas equality before law is a negative concept. The same way, procedure established by law procedure established by law is negative, whereas due process of law is positive. Okay, this is one thing you need to understand. So basically, most of the aspirants were divided on the opinion that the answer should be principle of natural justice or it should be fair application of law. Equality before law, if you have read something about polity, you know that it won't be there. And procedure established by law is definitely not this, because due process of law is an improvement over procedure established by law. That's kind of a fact you will be coming across. So the confusion was with fair application of law or principle of natural justice. Among these two, principle of natural justice is a much broader concept and it encompasses a lot of things including due process of law, and that's why that became the right answer over fair application of law. So but the answer to this is principle of natural justice, and it's not fair application of law, because fair application of law is a more specific or in fact a limited interpretation of law, whereas principle of natural justice is a more broad concept. So due process of law is also a broad concept because it's positive in nature. So the things that are positive in nature, positive as in we are characterizing it as positive because they encompasses a lot of nuances. It's not very straightforward. As in equality before law, everybody is equal before law. It's a very straightforward thing, but it doesn't account for the inequality that exists in the society. Imagine a case where we treat some person with a differently abled person and completely able person in the same level of competition. That's not proper equality. That there is no justice to that. There is equality, but there is no justice. That's the issue with equality before law. But at the same time, equality before law is applicable when it comes to somebody committing a crime. For example, a person with disability has committed a heinous crime and he will be treated similarly as anybody else. There won't be any differential treatment for that person. So equality before law is applied, but more often in India, of late, we have been following the due process of law. So we'll get to the concepts part of this question. The answer is principle of natural justice. No need to have a doubt. And you need to have a certain level of knowledge. Not without any knowledge, you won't be able to solve this. You need to know that procedure established by law. What is procedure established by law? And we can eliminate that. Having that knowledge helps, and fair application of law or equality before law is also eliminatable. But these two are the confusing ones, and you need to go with the one that has got a broader interpretation. That's the logic and the understanding you need to have. First of all, you won't be reading this due process of law mean principle of natural justice. The exact answer question, it won't be, I don't think any book or any the series will be having that. You will need to eliminate it. But in order to eliminate it, you will be required to have a certain level of conceptual understanding. So that's how we need to study. And I'll tell you a few things to make these sort of questions easier. First of all, we need to know what is natural justice. Actually, I just put these terms and everything, principles, for the sake of it, because you need, for the presentation purpose, so that if you need more content, you can rely on that. But basic idea, you need to have an idea. That is, natural justice means, in the word itself, it's natural. Justice that seems natural to humanity. That is fair, unbiased, reasonable, obviously. That is natural justice, not based on any strict code or written laws or anything. We know that if somebody is guilty, they should be punished. And the punishment should be proportional. We cannot treat a murderer and one who's stolen the food just because of hunger the same way. The treatment or the punishment or the guilt, everything should be nuanced and based on a natural sense of righteousness. So that's natural justice, and there are two basic principles. That is, no one should be a judge on their own case. Obviously, imagine a case where if I am the one if I run a country and I am a judge and I am a part of a particular organization or a company, and a case against that company comes before me, it's only right for me, it's moral imperative for me to recuse from that case. That's why judges often recuse from case citing conflict of interest, because they have got a personal connect to that with the person, the firm or the idea or anything. Their judgments can be biased, and that's why most cases, High Court and Supreme Court judges sometimes recuse from the cases. That's called a recusal, RECUSAL. So then the other one is, here the other side, right to fair hearing. You cannot convict somebody or just declare somebody guilty so without giving them a fair hearing. That is why even the criminals or those who have been accused of grave crimes are given the right opportunity for fair hearing. So that's how natural justice work, and natural justice is part of our judiciary itself, but our judiciary is beyond natural justice. We have got certain codes, procedures, etc. Due to the complexity of the judge or the cases that are been happening, but at the same time at lower levels or on quasi judicial bodies like tribunals, lok adalats, and civil courts, etc., natural justice might be followed, okay, to make the process simpler and fair and easier. So that's natural justice for you. So just have an idea. No need to study about all of these Latin words and everything. It's not all that relevant. I just put it here so that you can know that things exist. That's it. So there are basic principles like rule against bias. No one can be judge of their own case and right to a fair hearing. That's basic for natural justice. Then the procedure established by law and due process of law. It's very important. UPSC can ask question from this in the coming years, because this is a kind of knowledge or an understanding you need to have about the law and order system or the criminal justice system in the country. So what is procedure established by law? This is basic Victorian interpretation of law, justice. That is, even though if a law is passed by the parliament, and if the law is passed in such a way that it is legitimate, then the law is legitimate. That is, for example, if a bill is passed, imagine a bill that is passed that deports deports some level of population or some part of population out of this country, or deprive them of basic rights. Just arbitrarily imagine such a law is made, citing few reasons, whatever reasons, because from now on these sections of population will not be getting any ration or any food supplies under National Food Security Act, and some reasons are being cited there. Completely imagine, and this law is following the proper procedure, as in the bill is properly introduced and the bill is being discussed by the houses and it gets passed because the government or the party in power is having the majority. But that particular bill, it's a draconian bill if you look at it, is valid under procedure established by law, because it does not assess the qualitative nature of the law. It's just procedure established by law. Whether or not it is following the procedure, that is all the procedure established by law principle cares. Whether the quality or the implications, such a things won't be dissected or looked into under procedure established by law. So that's it. That is where whether the proper procedure is followed and not whether the law is just. Then again, and so you can very well imagine the issues with this. So if proper procedure is followed and a law is passed, but that law is draconian, the law still holds because it followed the procedure established by law. But that can lead to tyranny, arbitrariness, etc. So due process of law has emerged. A concept of due process of law has emerged because it's a more it tries to address the issues of procedure established by law, making it more nuanced, advanced, and it's a level up when it comes to the political system. So basically due process of law is followed in USA. It's a US concept, and now India is also following the same. And the first thing you need to know is that what was the issue with procedure established by law? The issue is that it doesn't really take into account the quality of the law or the virtue of the law. It just checks whether the law is lawful or not based on the procedure, whether it followed the procedure or not. So obviously due process of law means it checks into the intentions, whether or not the bona fide intention is there under the law, or any mala-fide intention, the law is being made with mala-fide intention. So if there is procedure is followed, it should follow the due procedure that is there, that is procedure established by law should be there, but at the same time the law in itself should be fair. That is the due process of law mean. Now you will get an idea on the grounds of judicial review, things like that will happen. Because if a law is being passed and it has got mala-fide intentions, Supreme Court can strike it down, citing it does not follow due process of law. It just followed procedure established by law. And there are cases where Supreme Court has struck down laws based on even the lack of procedure established by law. I think usage of money bills to bypass Rajya Sabha, that violates the procedure established by law, and also due process of law. So things like that is there. Then next one, the current status of India. How did this happen and what's the current state of India? We know that originally it is basic procedure established by law, because we adopted the thing from the Victorian political system and Victorian justice system. So obviously we started off with the procedure established by law, but the constitution has been constantly evolving with time. Even like since the 1950s and up until the 1980s, there was a tremendous back and forth game between the parliament and the Supreme Court. So a lot of evolution happened, the basic structure evolved and things like that happened, and very much evolution was happening during that time. And this landmark judgment came in 1978, where Supreme Court in Maneka Gandhi case said that procedure must be fair, just and reasonable. This was a diversion from the existing form of procedure established by law to due process of law, and it was as an interpretation of Article 21. So today India follows a combination, not just pure due process but more than mere procedure. It's a combination of both. So that's the current status. Have an idea and go through the differences between them. I've made a table so that you can understand the differences. The one checks fairness of law itself, that is procedure established by law, doesn't, whereas due process of law checks the fairness. Court examines the procedures only in procedure established by law, yes. But in the case of due process of law, court examines not just the procedure but the law itself. Power of legislature when it comes to procedure established by law is high. Okay, the same case with United Kingdom, and this is limited by fairness. For example, even if the parliament passes a law properly, like with all the debate, discussions and presidential assent, everything is there, but the law is not fair, then of course it can be struck down with judicial review. The risk, unfair laws can still be valid. That's the risk, because if we cannot be sure about the kind of government or the ones in the executive are always on the fair side. Things can go wrong, not just because of their own interest, but things can go wrong. We need some checks and balances to ensure that arbitrariness, tyranny, authoritarianism is not followed. And this is one way we can keep that under check. So that's it. Just keep this, take a screenshot of this, and you can easily internalize it. Just understand the concept, not just by heart it. Just don't think that due process of law, okay, this is that. No, just understand it, okay? Moving on, next question. Which one of the following statements best reflects the chief purpose of constitution of a country? If you have been following the classes for the last week, you know exactly what the answer is, and we have discussed in the logical solution problem how we can arrive at the answer. So you know the answer. It determines the objective for making necessary laws. Yeah, that's true only, but it's not necessary, because chief purpose of constitution, it is asking the chief purpose. Of course, this is one of a purpose. Then it enables the creation of political offices and a government. It's not really needed. Even in countries without a constitution, there will be political offices and government. It defines and limits the powers of government. Actually, this is the answer. Because what? When a constitution, written or unwritten, is in place, the kind of power the parliament, the executive, or the judiciary, for that matter, can exercise is limited under the limits of constitution. That's the basic of a constitutional form of government. The same question has been asked in 21, I guess, and it has been repeated in 23. So you can know that it's kind of a repeated trend. If you know the answer and can just mark it right away. Just going through the PYQ itself can give you the right answer. One or two questions, if you get one or two questions, it's a jackpot. Or if you can eliminate it, it's all the more better. That's why PYQs should be used extensively in a way that you are able to understand the concepts better, and you can actually mark the questions right. So I advise you, more than relying on test series, rely more on PYQs, then supplement it with test series, a good test series. That's what I always recommend. Don't just go for the test series that's the most difficult to solve. That's not the thing. A test series that might be the most difficult or having the most factual knowledge doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. The one that is very much aligned with the UPSC trend, that's the kind of test series you should be looking at. Okay, then it secures social justice, social equality, and social security. See, how can constitution, guarantee social secure social security? It can, but it's not the chief purpose. It's not a universal thing. So that's wrong. Again, this is again wrong. This is also not needed. That's wrong. And this is the answer. Keep this in mind. Constitutional government, limited government. Don't think that limited government meaning that it's powerless and it is limited in capability. It's a good thing. It's limited in power means the people are being given more importance and there is less chance of authoritarianism. So limited government is not a negative connotation. It's a positive thing only. So that's it. Nothing more to discuss on this part of things. Just a constitutional government. This is a PYQ also, as in 21 or 22, I don't exactly remember. And before that also the same question has been asked. So it's like the third time UPSC has been asking this question. So similar things can be expected. Even the same question can be expected. Okay, next one. See, this is something we have never seen. First of all, asking about presence and that too in a statement-based question. But if you follow carefully, in 2022, a question was there, like how the remand process is made, and if a person is being found, accused and brought before the magistrate, whether he'll be locked up in the jail or will be locked up in the police station or sent to jail. Things like that has been asked. The reason why they are asking these sort of questions is because they're testing your awareness, like the political awareness or how the system works. Police and all are the basics of or the beginning of criminal justice system. So this is also an extension of that. So if you have gone through that PYQ, you will get some idea that prisons are managed by the state governments only. Also, this question also begs our understanding and requires our understanding about basic list, state list, union list and concurrent list. There are a lot of entries on that and it's very difficult to keep track of them. But there is few important ones you need to know that are belonging to the union list and the state list, and certain exemptions are there, as in things that you might think that is in the state list is in the union list and vice versa. So have an idea about that. We'll discuss about that later. In India, prisons are managed by state governments with their own rules and regulations for the day-to-day administration of prisons. Yeah, this is true only. Police, prison, public order, public health, these are all part of state list. Then in India, prisons are governed by the Prisons Act, which expressly kept the subject of prisons in the control of provincial government. Yeah, even if you don't know exactly what is this, but Prisons Act is there and it kept the control of prisons in the hands of provincial governments. That is true only. So you don't have to go and read this thing as an extreme statement and mark it wrong. Read it as a whole and it makes sense. The only thing is, if you don't know that Prison Act 1894 or something of that sort exists, and it hasn't, and you are having a doubt whether it keeps under the control of provincial government, that's the only thing you need to have a doubt. But you can imagine, even in the time, the prisons and all are all kept under the provincial government only, because for a union government to manage the prisons across the country, it's a very difficult task. Just like managing public health. So police, public health, prison, those sort of things will obviously be devolved towards the federal governments only. So that is there. So answer is A. 32 is A. And there are few key takeaways I need to tell you about these. That is, what all are the things in state list, union list and concurrent list. Just have a basic idea about major things and major entries in the union list, concurrent list and state list. Start with state list, things that are in the state list. So you can eliminate the things that are not in the state list. As in, you can assume that things that are not in the state list will most likely be in the union list and some in the concurrent list. Like education, forest, these are in the concurrent list. So have an idea about that. And one clear exception is that most interstate things will be in the union list. That's the basic. That question has been repeated next year also. Interstate things will be in the union list. But same, for example, water is in state list, but interstate rivers are in union list. That's it. So that's a basic idea you need to have. And I'll show you one example. This is the question that has been asked the very next year in 2024. That choose which is the correct as per Constitution of India. Interstate trade and commerce is a state subject under state list. No, anything interstate is union. So this is wrong. This is wrong. and this is right. Even if you don't know this is right. That's how you arrive at the answer. The reason why I'm telling you is the question has been asked, there is a trend, and this led to the next year asking this question. There is a definite connection between these two, because they are asking about whether or not you know about the entries in the state and union list. That's it. So takeaway is, make a table with major entries, union list, state list, and concurrent list. You yourself should make a list and look for exceptions, peculiarity, anomalies, etc. Anomalies as in things that you think are in one list happen to be in the other list. Just be wary of that. This is how you actually clarify your concepts. You develop an intuition and you work with that. And if it is working properly, go with that. And the moments when those intuition is not in the right place, correct it, realign it, then go ahead with it. Making the study intuitive actually helps you clear the questions or clear this exam as a whole, because you cannot go by fact analysis of things. You need to have a general idea. Okay, prisons are kept under state list. Okay, obviously Prison Act might have kept it under the provincial list. Take that, have that intuition. This kind of intuition comes from solving PYQs and getting familiar with the language. That is why I am again saying that not just to rely too much on knowledge, too much on reading more and more material. Read material, of course we need to have a certain knowledge, but develop the intuition, and that intuition should be aligned with the demand of the question. Okay, so don't stress too much about it. Things are very easy actually, but the issue is that we have been surrounded by too much information, too much opinions, too much knowledge. So it's very difficult to choose between this, which is right, which is wrong. But I'm telling you, this is kind of strategy that work for me, and that works for my mentees, and you can confidently follow this. This is not a very heavy thing to do. I'm saying that make things lighter, make things easier. That's it. Then, okay, following on. How many of the above are constitutional bodies? Okay, National Commission for Backward Classes, National Human Rights Commission, National Law Commission, National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. From the looks of it, you know the kind of constitutional bodies are. We'll be studying constitutional bodies. That's basic. Okay, and we know they have got a certain characteristics. As in, there will be an apex body, and the kind of mentioning they are having will be, the kind of stature they are having will be really high. So National Law Commission is not a constitutional body. National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, no, not a constitutional body. Some people might have a doubt about this, whether this is a constitutional body. No, this is not a constitutional body. This was a statutory body. As in, National Commission for Backward Classes was a statutory body, but it was made a constitutional body in 2018 with 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act under Article 338B. So only one. So that's how you arrive at the answer. This question has been asked in the backdrop of, I think, 2018. The National NCBC was constitutionalized in 2018, but this was asked 5 years later. But in order to learn, you need to have an idea about, learn all the constitutional bodies and their articles. Okay. Start off by learning their names and the article. And that's the first step. Don't study one constitutional body, their entire purpose, and then move on to the other, because you will forget everything. Just have a crisp note where you know a constitutional body, their article, their mandate in one single line. Have a note, go through it, repeat it. And things that are not there will obviously be statutory bodies, executive bodies, or bodies that's neither statutory nor constitutional. There will be a lot of bodies like that. So once you are done with constitutional bodies, anything other than that will be statutory or other bodies that we can eliminate, because constitutional bodies are less in number, whereas statutory bodies, there are at least, I think, more than 50 statutory bodies will be there. So that is there. And few things I'll tell you. That NCBC was constitutionalized, like I said, was constitutionalized in 2018, 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act, but it was constituted as a statutory body in 1993. And after, I think, 25 years, it was made a constitutional body. An article, remember the article 338B, and it is under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And of course, when we are dealing with 338B, we need to know 338 is NCSE, National Commission for scheduled caste, then 338A National Commission for Scheduled Tribe. Don't confuse it, because 338 is for NCSC, not NCST. This is a common confusion among students. Don't make this mistake. UPSC can ask very factually this question, because it's a constitutional body and you are supposed to know the articles. So they can go really factual with that. So be very careful about this. 338 is not NCST. It starts with NCSC, then goes to NCST, then ends with NCBC and under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And look for the ministries for NCSC and NCST also. Then the next one, if the election of President of India is declared void by the Supreme Court of India, all acts done by him or her in the performance of the duties of his or her office of President before the date of decision become invalid. Okay. Actually, to be honest, I really didn't know the factual thing behind this. But that everything about that seemed very improbable. As in, for example, if the election of a president is declared void and if they have done things correctly, as in the duties they have done is not malified, then there is a good chance that how come those decisions or everything become invalid? There is no retrospective provision for that. That seems very impractical on to implement. That's the reason why I was very skeptical of this first statement, because that's very impractical. Of course, it makes sense that if the election is invalid, then the person was not eligible to become the president. But at the same time, annulling or invalidating their acts entirely post post coming to know that their election has been void seems very impractical. Imagine what they have done, like if they have declared or if they have signed an agreement with the foreign country or things like that. It's not really possible. So it's very impractical. That's why I eliminated it. Election for the post of president can be postponed on the ground that some legislative assemblies have been dissolved and elections are yet to take place. Obviously, there will be some sort of legislative assembly dissolution, things like that will be happening, and we cannot postpone the presidential election or extend his or her tenure on the basis of that. It's not really practical. Some state or the other will be having some sort of issue. Not now. Imagine back in the days, there will be constant dissolution of state assemblies happening. So it's not really practical. So I don't think that's going to be a possible answer also. So that's eliminated. Again, these two are, I am not eliminating these based on knowledge, but based on, the common sense that this is very impractical or very difficult to implement. Then when a bill is presented to the President of India, the Constitution prescribes time limit, which or her has to declare assent. This is exactly why we have a pocket veto, where there is no obligation. There is an obligation on President to give assent to constitutional amendment bills, but doesn't prescribe any time limit. But since President is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers, it will be made easily. But no time limits as such is prescribed in most cases. In case of assent for Governor and President, this is exactly why we are having an issue with Tamil Nadu Governor and the state of Tamil Nadu. The case has been running, and the Supreme Court has given a verdict like 2 months time for bills that has been reconsidered or bills that has been reserved for the president, things like that. So go through it. Okay. The key takeaway is Tamil Nadu versus Governor case, the kind of verdict and timeline. Then you need to know about Article 200, the Governor reserving bills to President. Okay, this is very important. You need to go through this. We can expect such a question in the coming years, because the Governor state government asset is like all-time high. So a question regarding Article 200 will be there. So you need to go through that. Next, this is basic. I have discussed it yesterday also. Procedure regarding constitutional amendment bill is 368 and no provision for joint sitting, things like that. And President must give assent by passed house and cannot return the bill. And 24th amendment is the one that made the assent mandatory. And again, there is an example for this. If a state assembly is dissolved, they cannot participate in presidential election, meaning presidential election will continue. Only the state that is dissolved may not participate. Example, Gujarat in 1974. So, like I said, this is very impractical. It's just that legislative assembly will be dissolved and they won't be able to participate. Same way in case of Jammu Kashmir, and also they were not able to participate. The legislative assembly was suspended, but presidential election did take place. So it cannot be postponed on the grounds of that. So you can just imagine that. Just that the state assembly cannot participate, not the election will be postponed. Okay, scheduled areas. This is very important. The 5th schedule areas and 6th schedule areas. You need to be very careful about these, the details. Who can declare area, notify the area, the setting the boundaries, the laws, the criteria, everything. We'll be discussing that after this question. So scheduled areas. 5th schedule. They're asking about the 5th schedule areas. Within a state, the notification of an area, scheduled area, takes place through an order of president. Yeah. Okay. The largest administrative unit forming the scheduled area is the district, and the lowest cluster of population is block. Okay. Chief ministers of the country are required to submit annual reports to union minister on the administration of scheduled areas. If you know, the executive is one doing it, not the ministers. Less in the elected ministers is there not doing it. Governor is the one who's submitting the report. I don't think it's in Union Home Ministry. It's towards the president. So this is wrong. Chief minister doesn't really have much role in terms of scheduled areas because the executive power of the state is limited. So this is wrong, and I think 39 is B. It's B only. So that's it. When it comes to scheduled areas, the chief ministers or the state executive, state council of ministers has very little role. Mostly it is being dealt with the president and the governor. So first of all, under Article 244, 5th schedule under Article 244. Okay, so that's very important. In scheduled areas except Mizoram, Manipur, not Manipur, Mizoram, Assam, Tripura and Meghalaya. These are the areas in 6th schedule. So 5th schedule provisions are for areas except these 4. So then the schedule areas based on tribal preponderance declared by president. Governor exercise executive powers of central government. So basically central government is the one having the control over the scheduled areas, and governor is the one exercising the power on behalf of them. Then governor submit the annual report, and state laws are not applicable to scheduled area. No legislative or political autonomy. But 6 scheduled areas have these. To some level, they have political, legislative and judicial autonomy to some level. To protect their culture there, they have some level of political and legislative autonomy for 6th schedule, not for 5th schedule. And only certain executive powers like Tribal Advisory Council. Just read about this. Tribal Advisory Council. How the composition, criteria and the states having it. Okay. Tribal Advisory Council, if I remember correctly, it should have 1/4 of the members should be MLAs from the ST community. That's one thing, and they have certain powers when it comes to the decision making regarding scheduled areas. For declaring, this is a basic thing. For declaring any area as a 5th schedule area, it should have tribal preponderance, compactness, small size, then a viable administrative entity. That is, that particular area should have a viable administrative entity so that proper administration can be implemented. Then economic backwardness, obviously. Again, very important. We have been coming across this exact wording every now and then, and we might think that these are mentioned in constitution, but no, these are not mentioned in the constitution or anything, but this has become very established as I think with subsequent legislations or court verdicts, these have become established, but definitely not mentioned in the constitution. Be very careful about that. Article 24 is mentioned in the constitution, scheduled areas, 5th schedule, everything is mentioned, but the conditions are not mentioned. Very important, remember that. Moving on. Next question. Then 6 schedule areas. We'll just go through the 6 schedule areas. There are 244-2. This is 244-1. This is 244-2. And scheduled areas applicable to tribal areas of Meghalaya, Assam, Tripura and Mizoram. So there is a mnemonic for this. No money ATM. As in there is no Manipur, and ATM stands for Meghalaya and Mizoram. AT is Assam and Tripura. So that's one mnemonic commonly used. It's no money ATM to indicate that no Manipur is there, and ATM stands for Assam, Tripura, Mizoram and Meghalaya. Greater autonomy, obviously 5th schedule, greater autonomy declared by president, central and state established autonomous councils. These autonomous councils have some degree of autonomy, some higher degree of autonomy. Compared to this, there is no autonomy, but these areas have higher level of autonomy. prevent establishment of laws passed by parliament and state assembly. See, a lot of laws that are passed by the parliament and state assemblies won't be applicable for these administrative councils, but they are not explicitly or entirely out of the executive authority of state or center, because how is that even possible? For example, we have we have administrative councils or tribal councils in autonomous councils in Mizoram, Meghalaya, Assam and Tripura, and they are within the boundaries of the Indian state and the Tripura or the respective state. How can they be entirely outside the executive authority of the state? That's basically secessionism, which is not the right thing to do. So they are not entirely outside. There is a fine line between their autonomy and their control, the state control over their jurisdiction. That's it. That is, governor is the one altering the boundary. Very important. Don't think it's president, it's governor. Right now, 10 tribal areas of autonomous council. You need to go through that. Dima Hasao, then Karbi Anglong, Bodoland. Those are the few names of the autonomous district councils. You need to know about all of that. Name of those places and in which state they are in, because questions can be asked. Because it's a very important and fundamental topic of our syllabus. So that's it. Moving on, next question. The Supreme Court of India has held in some judgments that the reservation policies made under Article 16(4) of the Constitution would be limited by 335 for maintenance of efficiency of administration. Okay, makes sense. Article 335 Constitution of India defines the term efficiency of administration. The Constitution doesn't even define office of profit. So, even such a thing is not defined, then how can efficiency of administration be defined? Chances are very unlikely. Even if you don't know 335 or anything, but the chances of Constitution defining something as abstract as efficiency of administration, the likelihood is very, very low. Then that's one good thing about the statement-wise question. If you can manage to find one wrong statement, you can get the answer. So this is wrong. This is wrong, and this is the answer. So 40 is C. Yeah. Then Supreme Court of India has held in some judgment that we'll go through the details. Policies under Article 16. Article 15 is regarding education or right against discrimination. Article 16 is regarding right to employment, like providing reservation in jobs. Article 15 providing reservation in education institutions. So that's the basic thing. Of course, Supreme Court has multiple times mentioned about the Article 335. Article 335 means providing special provisions for the marginalized sections like scheduled caste and scheduled tribes for their upliftment, for affirmative action of the state. But Article 335 should not be a reason for reduction of efficiency of administration. Just because we are doing a good thing or we are doing an action that should be done doesn't really mean that we should be compromising on merit. So that's the thing Supreme Court has said, and it has been said multiple times also. So Article 335, this is exact Article 335, that claims of members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe shall be taken into consideration consistently with the maintenance of efficiency of administration in making opportunities to impose connection with affairs of union and state. Basically, you need to balance out giving them the opportunity and ensuring that they are the right ones. The chosen ones are the right fit to the administration without compromising on efficiency of administration. This is how reservation should be taken, and this is how Supreme Court has multiple times reiterated that reservation is much needed, but at the same time efficiency of administration or quality or merit in general should be balanced. There should be a balancing act between these two. So that's the basic thing. 335. This is one article that you won't be usually dealing with, but this is one important article. And if you can remember that 338 regards with National Commission for Scheduled Caste and 338A deals with National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. So 335 and 338, those are all concerned with Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes. So have an idea about that. Okay. Then moving on, next question. This is a very difficult question to solve. So I highly recommend you leave this question, because only few, since it has been asked as only 1, only 2, only 3, it's very difficult to eliminate to begin with. So we need to know whether all of these are correct or not. And they have asked very peculiar questions, very peculiar fact. The members nominated to either House of the Parliament or Legislative Assemblies are also eligible to be included in the Electoral College. Okay. The question is regarding election of President of India. Okay. Are they actually? This is the basic thing that we are looking at. No, they are not. Higher the number of elective assembly, higher is the value of vote of each MLA. Again, you won't be dealing much with the, this is exact fact you need to know. So it's very difficult. Then the value of vote of each MLA of Madhya Pradesh is greater than Kerala. Even having an idea about number of MPs in Madhya Pradesh and number of MP or MLAs in Kerala wouldn't get you the answer, because you need to know the population of that state and proportion of that. That's where this question gets tricky, because you cannot know, like, even if you are somewhat aware about the number of MLAs in Madhya Pradesh and Kerala, you need to know the number of people living there, because the value of vote is calculated based on the number of MLAs divided by the number of population into 1000. So basically it has become a math problem. Then the value of vote of each MLA in Puducherry is higher than Arunachal Pradesh, because the ratio of population to total number of elective seats is Puducherry is greater compared. Again, you need to know number of MLAs here, and the population there. Very difficult to solve. These two statements are got very difficult to solve. Higher the number of elective assembly seat, higher is the value of vote. This is wrong actually. With the increasing number of votes, it's actually wrong. But there is again another issue, because it's not just higher an MLA, it depends on the population also. So we'll get into the details. Ideally, if question with only 1, only 2, only 3 and it has got this much degree of difficulty, leave it. Don't spend time. Don't let your ego make you hold on to this question. This is a very difficult question. It's better to leave it. But I'll give you a few insights on how to approach it. Basic presidential election. It's a secret ballot, 5-year term, and only elected members of parliament and state legislative assembly and assemblies like assemblies with UTs with assemblies like Delhi and Puducherry can participate. Basically what? No nominated members, only elected members. But in case of impeachment, the nominated members of parliament can participate. There is no role for state assemblies. Be very careful about that and very clear. For election, elected members including the ones from state assemblies. For impeachment, all the members including nominated ones in the parliament only, no state assemblies. So how value of an MLA vote is calculated? Value of an MP vote is calculated based on the value of MLA votes. Okay, so we start off with MLA vote. Value of an MLA vote is like total population of the state divided by number of elected MLAs. Okay, for example, if a state has 3.5 crore people living there and number of elected MLAs is 120, that will be the number. That particular number will be the value of MLA vote. So this is how a MLA vote is calculated. Number of people and number of MLAs by number of MLAs. Higher the number of elective assembly seats, higher is the value of vote of each MLA. Is it possible? No, because it's in the denominator. If this number goes up, the value will go down. Okay, but again, we are assuming the total population is remaining constant. If the population is increasing and the number is increasing, then again the whole equation changes. But on a simple level, higher the number of elective assembly seats for having, if two states having same population, like 1 crore each in two states, but one state has got higher number of MLAs, then the value vote of one MLA will be less. That's the basic thing. This is the formula for calculating value of vote of MLAs. That is total population, number of elected MLAs into 1000. Value of vote of an MP. Value of total MLA vote, as in we just add all the value of all the vote value of MLAs across the states, and we'll get into some big number, and we divide that number by total elected numbers of parliament, that is Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. That accounts for roughly 700 something. So that we'll be dividing this value. This value means total MLA votes, values of each MLAs added across the state, and we'll get a big number, and that number is being divided by the total number of elected members of parliament, not just Lok Sabha, parliament. Then that's it. This is a basic trend. It's not very easy, or it's a not easy fact, but I have just compiled it for the sake of it. Per MLA vote value. Per MLA vote value is high in UP because the number of the population to the number of elected MLA ratio is high there. So UP remains high there, and Tamil Nadu comes second, then Maharashtra. Per MLA. This is per MLA vote. That's like the vote value of one MLA, not the whole state. So that's one UP, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. Then total MLA vote value. with this per vote value into the total number of seats. That's the total MLA vote value. Again, UP is top. So when it comes to these sort of things, UP is top, and there is a switch. Maharashtra has got more number of MLAs compared to Tamil Nadu, and despite having a lower per MLA vote value, they have got higher total value. So this is the basic criteria, and currently the value is around 700, and it was 708, but due to the lack of legislative assembly in J&K, it reduced to 700. And as like I said, if a state assembly is dissolved, they cannot take part in presidential election. This is a very crystallized format of how this value of MLA or MP vote is calculated. You may just take a screenshot, and this will be really helpful for revision. You don't have to go through this again and again. This can be very confusing, but it's not very confusing. Value of MLA is like total population by the number of MLAs into 1000, and total value of MLAs, total values of MLAs across all the states divided by the number of elected representatives in the parliament gives the value of one MP vote. Like it's the value of MP vote. That's it. Then another one, Constitutional Day. Okay, the Constitution is celebrated on 26 November every year to promote constitutional values among citizens. Okay, we know that this is the day where the Constitution was properly compiled and submitted, and it didn't come into force on 26 November. It came into force on 26 January 1950, because that was a predetermined date for India to be republic. Only for ceremonial reasons only. That 26, not because it took that much time to compile the constitution. It was made earlier also. In 26 November it was completed, but it was properly enacted in January 26, and that's what we celebrate as Republic Day. On 26 November 1949, the Constituent Assembly set up the drafting committee. No, in 26 November 49, they actually completed the process. It was set up much earlier, and they completed the process in 26 November. So this is wrong, and since it's a statement question, it's very easy. You don't need to know much about it. Questions like these will be very simple, and there is no much takeaway. There will be one or two questions like this, very random, like flag code of India, things like that. It's very difficult to prepare. If you can prepare, go for it, and that's it. Nothing. They are not very repetitive in nature, and they tend to be quite random, and they are not worth actually putting an effort in. Even if you don't know and you have got sufficient attempts, then leave them. It's fine. That's not gonna break your chances of clearing prelims. Again, nobody has anticipated such a question about police, home guards, regarding state list and everything, but they're asking this question. 23, I said 23 is slightly a deviation from the usual UPSC trend, because the kind of questions have been asked seemed very, application oriented. Having an idea about home guard is something you need to have, but you won't be having from books or anything. It's just street knowledge, I would say. So home guards are raised under the Home Guards Act and rules of central government. Okay. Home guards, we know that they are part of police, and they are part of the state police force. Okay, maybe, but chances are less. The role of home guards is serve as an auxiliary force to police in maintenance of internal sector. Makes sense. Obviously, it makes sense. To prevent infiltration on the international border coastal areas, border wing home guards battalions have been raised in some states. Actually possible. Police tend to, the police in various states have various rules, and they can actually keep an auxiliary force in command. Things like that are happening across the states. In Kerala also we have that. Home guards also there in Kerala, and other forms of police like reserve polices are there. Not reserve police, like volunteers are there. So during the COVID pandemic, when the forces are stretched thin, they actually rely on these auxiliary forces for doing some activities that the police are supposed to do. They won't be dealing with law and order investigation or anything of that sort, but the basic traffic management, delivery of services, things like that are there. So I think one is wrong, and we'll get to the answer as B. 91 is B. So that's about it. Home guards, if just see, home guard is served as auxiliary force for police, meaning that police, it is connected to police. Police is a state subject, so there is good chance that it won't be under central government. It will be under state government only. So that's the only logic you have. Okay, so that's it. I really hope this session was helpful to you, and go through the sessions and the notes that are there. They are not just random notes. These are my own notes I have prepared for quick revision, and I advise you to stick to the format that I am using so that the notes become very easy to recollect. At the same time, they won't be very bulky. At the same time, they are fact rich only. So keep that in mind, and happy learning. Stay tuned to this channel, and we'll be discussing further questions in the coming days, and we'll be soon be switching to polity, economy, geography, and environment, ecology, and other current affair matters also.